My palms are sweaty. Can you tell I'm uncomfortable making this video? I made over $1 million this year in income alone, and I did it through 6 sources of revenue. And in this video, I'll show you the receipts on exactly how I did it. Now, this isn't meant to be some sort of influencer flex.
I've made over $300,000 on Chill Guy token, if you guys have seen it going viral.
Oh my god, what is this?
I'm gonna flex on you 7 times, all right?
$1 million monkey business, I'm the enterprise. Rolling on my wrist, man, that's how I accessorize.
This is about something much bigger. One of my most closely held beliefs is that the ever-growing wealth gap is one of the greatest threats to our collective future. And so I'm doing something about it. The 2 ways I'm tackling this issue are, first, normalizing open and honest conversations about money. That means pay, expenses, salaries, investing, debt, all of it, the good and the ugly. And trust me, I'll be sharing some ugly finances in this video. The second way is to create, connect, and equip the next generation of intelligent investors. But wait, how does being an intelligent investor connect to having a high income? Well, 4 years ago, when I was living on the road, more on that later, I had a hypothesis. And that hypothesis was that learning to think like an intelligent investor would not only impact your long-term wealth creation prospects, but also your short-term earning potential. So I decided to walk the walk and test it on myself. And spoiler alert, it's working. Even Warren Buffett shares this belief, which gave me even more confidence to go all in on it. We'll cover that later in a lot of detail, so stick around because I think that's where the real value of this video comes in. But first, we'll break it all down as we dive into my income and expenses. Oh, and in case we haven't met yet, hey, I'm David. I became a self-made millionaire before I turned 30, and I did it by saving diligently and investing intelligently. And my income definitely wasn't this high before I was 30. I was in the military for the majority of my 20s. Now I'm on a mission to make intelligent investing more mainstream. As you'll see, intelligent investing has changed my life, and I think it can change others. If you want more content on Buffett-style investing and smart finances, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. You'll also be helping us get this information out to more people and help us grow. Let's get started. So in 2024, I had 6 streams of income. I had my base salary, yes, I have a day job, commissions from that day job, Airbnb income, money from this YouTube channel, savings, interest, and dividend revenue. I also saw really nice capital appreciation in the stocks I own because I'm a big Buffett-style investor and have been for over a decade. But because in Buffett-style investing you very rarely sell, it's not counted as income. We'll talk more about the stock appreciation after we break down my income. Here we go. We'll start with my day job. This pay stub is as of December. So you can see my regular salary up to this point is $134,000. And then there's some other smaller things, contribution to ESPPs. But then the majority of my income comes from commission, which was $906,000 this year. That brings my total gross pay to $1.13 million. Then my next biggest source of income was my Airbnb. This year we made $38,000 from Airbnb-ing our house. It was $40,000 the year before and $40,000 the year before that. Now this isn't some investment property. I've literally Airbnb'd the first floor of my house. I think that is one of the secrets of people who are kind of wealthy. Even though I've had close or over a 7-figure income for the last 2 or 3 years, I still have Airbnb'd half my house. In the game of wealth creation, it's not so much what you make, it's really what you keep. And then I also had some interest gains from my high yield savings account that I used through M1. That's been about $5,700 this year. And then I had some YouTube ad revenue from this channel. That came in right around $830. But you can see it took us a while to monetize our channel. And then after we did monetize, we had a little bit of a breakdown in YouTube AdSense. And then we've since gotten that fixed. So that might go up next year or as we continue to grow the channel. Again, another plug to like and subscribe if you don't mind. And then I had dividend revenues. Now, this is actually kind of hard for me to add up all of my numbers. I'm not going to show the receipts on this one because it does go into some of my 401k and Roth accounts and accounts that I just don't want to share with the public just yet. I did try to add everything up and it brought my dividend income to about $8,000. Again, it was hard to get this exact numbers, so I'd call this one soft. So if we don't include any of those dividends, that brings my total income in 2024 to $1,182,905. So that wraps up my major sources of income. But now let's talk about my favorite subject, asset appreciation. Because over the long run, I am 100% certain that this will be the major source of my wealth. And that's due to the magic of compound interest. That's the first thing you need to understand as an intelligent investor. I've been an investor for over 10 years, and that's a short amount of time for a long-term investor. And I've already seen the start of its massive power. Now I'm only going to go into the portfolios I've shared on this channel before. I do have other retirement accounts and investing funds, but I want to maintain some sort of privacy, as I'm worried going fully public will impact my performance. It'll get in my head too much. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I'm publicly investing $100,000. And that's up to $112,000, so about a 12% gain. But it's important to note that that's not a fully invested fund. In fact, the majority of it is sitting in short-term treasuries, and these short-term treasuries yield 5% to me, which is fantastic. But then I also have two other positions. I have 10% of the $100,000 in Disney, which is up about 17% since I took that position, and then I have an investment in Lululemon that is up 13% this year. Now, I want to talk about this Lululemon investment because, as you can see, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. I mean, at one point, the stock was down 30%. Now, obviously, I wish I would have bought more. I mean, who wouldn't? But I was also getting kind of nervous. I almost sold out of the position. But the reason why I didn't, and this is the key if you're going to actively pick stocks, is that I did my homework, and so I didn't get scared out of it. Peter Lynch has a quote where he says the key to making money in stocks is to not get scared out of them. There's only one way you'll be able to do that, and that's if you've done your homework and you trust your thesis. Now, again, I wish I would have bought more. I mean, who wouldn't? But I stuck to my guns and I didn't sell. Okay, I'll show you the other portfolio that I've talked about a little bit on this channel. The value of it is over 6 figures, and unlike my M1 account, it is fully invested. Okay, so let's go into that one. And you can see this one is crushing the S&P 500. The S&P 500 this year is up 32%. This one's up over 57%. And it's key to point out that I'm not using any leverage or anything like that in this to juice the games. It's just good old stock picking. I've shared across social media how it performed last year. It also crushed the market. So the 2-year performance has really blown the S&P 500 out of the water. And I can't show the 5-year timescale because the account's just not that old. So all in all, my portfolios rose by about $300,000 this year, including everything. But luckily, that's not taxed until I sell. And I don't plan on selling for a very, very, very long time. Okay, that's a lot of the good. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now. But now let's talk about the ugly, because that's what talking openly about money really means. You talk about the good, and you also talk about the ugly. You cannot have one without the other, without being a jerk. I had one huge expense this year. That's Flank, the project I've been working on. And you can see right here that the expenses for this whole year were $150,000. And I only got this business credit card back in May. So really, Flank has cost me this year about $200,000. Now, this does look rough. Flank is a really ambitious project. This thing can't be made overnight. I've tried. Really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to build is completely novel, and it hasn't been done before. We're trying to build a market data platform that also has a social component for it. Because that's what our belief is. As an investor, I've seen so much good analysis floating around the internet, on Reddit, comments, Seeking Alpha, name your source, and I can see a lot of good stuff, but it just whizzes by you. And it's also really hard to sort through the technical day trading crap that's on there. And so there's a lot going on. And I've been working on this for a while. I tried this as a solo project at first with my childhood best friend. We worked on it for 3 years. I even learned how to code to try to make this thing come to life. But at the end of last year, we decided that we just couldn't do it without hiring. It wasn't moving fast enough. We weren't going in the right direction. We were kind of spinning our wheels. So I decided to start working with other people. And those other people obviously need to be paid. This, along with the tech infrastructure and financial data, have Flank burning between $20,000 and $30,000 a month. That's hard for me to say on camera. That doesn't feel good. It triggers alarms in my mind. I have a little bit of financial trauma, but I believe in this idea so much that I'm willing to bet big on it. I really am. And that's also why I'm choosing to not raise venture capital. I've heard of and seen way too many startups ruined, and I know that this idea won't sell good on paper. We're trying to train, connect, and equip the next generation of intelligent investors using a Warren Buffett-style investing approach. We're directly fighting what's in vogue with individual investors right now. Really, really risky and senseless options contracts. Crypto shit coins, gambling, day trading, all that stuff. We don't want any of that on our site. I don't think a venture capitalist is going to want to come with us on this journey to try to fight the tide. It also feeds into my hypothesis that I wanted to test on myself. My hypothesis is that by being a Buffett-style investor, it makes you substantially better than 99% of people in business. More on that in a moment. And so that's why I am bootstrapping this thing myself. And I know how quickly this can turn. You saw the majority of my income is from selling software. That can change in a heartbeat. There was a layoff earlier this year. I got rehired pretty quickly because I'm a top salesperson, but for a time I was laid off. When your burn rate's that high, it's freaking scary. Another ugly, but a necessary ugly, is that I paid a lot of money in taxes this year. I mean, if we pull it up, $374,000 in federal, $10,000 to Social Security, $24,000 to Medicare, and then $50,000 in state taxes. That's like almost $500,000 in taxes alone. That just goes to show that people who make a lot of money from their day job, who are living really extravagant lifestyles, probably actually don't have that much wealth. I mean, if I was living in New York, paying $10,000 a month for a nice apartment in the city, had a second home somewhere, had alimony from a divorce, you can quickly see how these costs really start to add up. I think that's something we really need to talk about more, the rich broke. And there's one thing I want you to take away from that. The $200,000 that I'm using to try to build a business could easily have been lifestyle creep. And it's really easy to spend money once you have it. But even though the costs on Flank are extremely high right now, way more than I'm comfortable, and that has cost me to lose a good bit of sleep this year, which is always the sign that it's not a good financial decision. If it's causing you to lose sleep, it's bad. But we are seeing some really good signs in Flank. Our revenue this month alone is up 400%. It's still obviously wildly unprofitable, but I'll talk a little bit more about Flank and what we're doing at the end of this video because we have some really interesting things in flight. But first, I want to talk about how I got into this career, since my day job really was the majority of my taxable income in 2024. So after I separated from the military, I thought that I wanted to get into something buy side, either investment banking, private equity, venture capital, or go work at a family office. Something. I'm a finance nerd. Luckily, I had already been an investor for about 7 years at that point, so I had a good bit of capital built up. I didn't need to jump into anything immediately, and I knew my next step would be important. I also knew this would be one of the few times in my life that I had money, time, energy, and relatively little responsibility, so I decided to pursue a lifelong dream to try to circumnavigate the globe by motorcycle. But unfortunately, I launched in March of 2020, which was the worst time in the past 100 years to try and do something like this, given the erupting pandemic. So the trip ended up staying domestic. Here was my route. But I don't regret it for a single second. I got to raise some money for veteran mental health, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's actually where I got some of the initial ideas for Flank. I was thinking, why is it so hard to learn how to invest well? Why is there nowhere to bounce ideas off of? But I wasn't quite ready to jump into entrepreneurship, so I started an unpaid internship at a search fund, which a search fund is just like micro private equity. Now, in any kind of private equity, when you get really close to buying a business, you get access to something called the data room. At one company we were looking to buy, I got access to payroll, and being the nosy little analyst that I wanted to check out who got paid the most in this company. And I was shocked. The CEO was the highest paid person in the company, but then the second, third, fourth, and fifth highest paid people in the company weren't the other chiefs. It was the salespeople. And as I got into more data rooms, I saw that was always the case. So that kind of changed my idea of thinking sales was something just like a used car guy to something that could actually be a real career. Now, if you're just getting into investing and you're doing stock investing in public companies, you probably won't get access to a data room. But I did learn something from being a public market investor that made me choose software sales in particular. And that's because I knew, being a tech investor, about the principle in investing called operating leverage. And the way to describe operating leverage in terms of software means that for me to manufacture a code base is a pretty large investment. But then for me to replicate that and sell it to other places, the incremental costs with that aren't very high. So your operating margins go up. But if I was selling jets, well, if I were to sell one jet for X amount of money, and then I were to sell a second jet for X amount of money, the costs associated with that, they stay about flat. They probably go a little bit up if we get high order volumes with the aircraft manufacturers, but it will mostly be flat. Whereas in software, the more software we sell, the more profitable we become. So I figured that companies would be able to pay software salespeople more than more capitally intensive sellers. Another piece of ugly that I need to note is that I work a ton. I don't recommend this. Between Flank and my day job, it's not uncommon for me to pull a 16-hour day. I shudder when I think about how many days I've waken up at 2 a.m. to start working. That's not some hustle porn flex that I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to point out the cost of trying to start a business while also working a day job, specifically one as intense as sales. Sales is not easy. Do not take that as a takeaway from this video. But I do think I'm better than a lot of people at sales. And I actually know this. I have the data to prove it. I've been a top performer for every year I've been in it, across 3 different companies and territories now. And it's not because I'm some sort of social butterfly. I'm actually pretty introverted. I have trained myself to be a little more extroverted. But this gets to my hypothesis. And I think it's because I understand business so intensely. And that's why I really think we're onto something with what we're building. It all goes back to one of my favorite Buffett quotes. I'm a better business person because I'm an investor, and I'm a better investor because I'm a business person. There are a million different ways that I could tell you about how being an investor has helped me in my day-to-day day job, but a lot of those would break NDAs, so I'll just give you the high-level view. When you see the chessboard better, it allows you to ask the right questions. And in sales, asking the right question is more than half the battle. If you want to see the chessboard better, I highly encourage you to become an intelligent investor. I don't even mean just by using Flank. There are a ton of different ways to get there. For me, I read dozens and dozens of books on investing. I made a video on my favorite books a few months ago. I'll link it at the end. But I also read every Buffett shareholder letter since 1965, more than once. I started learning to read the annual reports of tons of companies, ones I thought I wanted to invest in, ones that I was investing in, and I made my way through the slodge of financial sites to get the data that wasn't in the annual reports, at least well-structured annual reports. And I did this all while trying to avoid the traps of momentum investing, day trade investing, option investing, all those. I actually fell into it a couple of times, but different story for a different day. And of course I'm gonna plug my company here, you could consider joining Flank. We have created the world's first purely long-term Buffett-style data platform, along with a social component for other flankers to share analysis. I think that'll be one of our superpowers. Putting your analysis in front of other people can help you avoid blind spots, and it can also make you a better communicator. And Buffett says one of the best ways to increase your net worth by 50% is to become a better communicator. And the difference between us and virtually every other site on the internet is that we actually think you're a good investor. We're not gonna try to pretend like you're an idiot or you don't know what you're talking about or you need to avoid trying to pick companies that you're familiar with. Again, this all goes back to just how much good analysis I've seen floating around the internet through the years. Remember, intelligent investing is about viewing stocks like businesses, just like Buffett does. You do the same amount of homework that you were going to do if you were going to buy a farm or a house or a normal local business. You want to do a lot of homework up front so that you trust your investment. Now, the initial feedback we got from the social and data platform was that it was a little bit hard for someone who was just jumping into Buffett style investing. And that's totally fair. So to fix this, we just finished creating a course that will show you exactly how to research a stock like Buffett. I'm really proud of this course. We worked on it for about 6 months, and I think it's a wonderful synthesis of about 50 years of Buffett's content, and we've distilled that down into just about a 2-hour course. And remember, what's super cool about taking this course on Flank is that you'll have the data platform right next to you. So you'll have live company data staring right back at you while you research the stock, as opposed to having to go look for it in a bunch of different locations. I think what we built is pretty cool, but it's just a fraction of what we plan to build. And as you saw, the expenses are pretty high, so your early support really does mean a lot to us. It means the world. And to show you how grateful we are, we're offering a 60% discount forever to those who sign up using the promo code in the description below. Be sure to check out the details in the description because this won't be available forever. There will also be a link to our Discord in the description below if you want to see more of what we're about at Flank. Remember, your path won't look like mine, nor should it. That's one of the joys of life. We each have to walk our own path. But even if just one person walks away from this video and is able to make better career or investing decisions, then this video is a hit in my book. And it's important to say, I didn't grow up with this kind of wealth. I'm a military veteran, and I know what it's like to struggle. Too many people I grew up with or served with are working their asses off, but they feel stuck financially. I know that this can be fixed. Thanks again so much for watching. If you want to check out that video on my favorite investing books, you'll see that on the screen now. Feel free to check it out. We'll see you in the next one.